Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Drury Outdoors 100% Wild podcast. We're here in the studio, 100% healthy at this point.
Well,
I'm Tim Chelsvik.
I didn't want to tell you on the way in this morning, I started getting a headache. No, I'm kidding.
Because you were on your way into work.
Yeah,
That's probably.
No, the headache was thinking about how we're going to work from home for the next 2 weeks. So
that's a job in and of itself to get that set up.
The big news here, obviously, is that today, as of today, this is St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, we are going to start working remotely from our respective homes.
God help us all.
Yeah. So, for probably your job, my job, a couple other guys, it's maybe not as hard, but the poor editors, they got to take computers home and hard drives and think through the next 2 weeks. And, there's a lot more to it. Working remote for them, when you have big video files and all that stuff, it's just not as cut and dry. So we strategized on Monday morning, and then, the president came out and said, hey, if you can work from home, you should. Anything over 10 people, it's probably not a good idea. We got 12 guys in the studio.
12 with questionable levels of hygiene.
Yeah. So no amount of Purell is going to fix this place. Right. So we better be responsible. So that's what we're going to do.
And we're under no illusion that Drury Outdoors is not a critical part of people's lives. Yeah. But there is something to be said for normalcy and continuity and some familiar faces and familiar voices. So we're just going to keep at it.
Well, and I'm not naive to the fact that probably a big portion of our viewership may not even kind of believe in the hype around it. And I think you got to kind of suspend all your beliefs in that regard. If, if the government saying it's just best if we stay away from each other, even though we're sitting 2 feet from each other right now. We're just trying to be responsible. And I think that's the message here. A lot of people, I've seen so many memes and posts about, hey, for you hunters out there, hunters out there will get this. This is like CWD, like government's going to come in and kill you all.
Thin out the herd a little bit.
Yeah. So
my wife and I were talking last night, and she said something like, well, I just can't believe that X, Y, and Z. And I said, I mean, when you think about it, would you have believed anything that's happened in the past week or so had someone told you a few weeks prior?
Yeah, no.
You wouldn't. There's just no precedent. No one knows much of anything.
No precedence for the amount of things that they shut down in such a hurry. And, we're preparing for a week and a half out of the studio, but realistically, I think may have to prepare for another week after that on the short end of it. So anyhow, we're trying to film a bunch of podcasts so we could continue to get content out there over the next few weeks, and hopefully people have something to do, to pass the time. Yeah. So, but on a side note, I'm kind of dreading working from home from a standpoint of
you and me both.
We both have similar situations and young children. And they don't know. It doesn't matter if you're
privacy.
In the basement or if your door's closed, or God help all of us.
Yep. We're screwed. Productivity is about to go way down.
And I'm asking the same thing of all of our guys here to do their best to not be distracted. And I totally fall into the same category because of outside influences there. And I totally think of that video that was surfacing on social media where the guy is British doing the interview and his kid comes in and then the nanny in a panic, and then the other kid in a baby roller stroller or whatever. Yeah. She's like,
it was like last week, Mike Chamberlain was on with us and his wife was walking through the background of the frame. It's that's just what it is. But our guest today has carved out time out of his busy schedule,
get to him.
Seeing patients.
You tell me to shut up.
We've got, in a manner of speaking, yes, we've got Dr. Bric Steward on with us. Bric is a longtime Drury Outdoors team member. Bric,
and a learned doctor. 2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row.
Learned doctor.
We're setting the bar high.
That's right. What's going on, guys?
Maybe he's setting it low.
He's a doctor?
He's on here?
Really? So
makes you scratch your head, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So we've got 2 weeks of shows scheduled with Bric, and Bric, if anyone's watched Drury Outdoors content for any length of time, they know and are familiar with him and what he does. And we were talking internally, a lot of guys picking up a piece of property, what do you do with it? Maybe you've got a few deer on it, but how do you really turn it into something? Well, Bric has personal experience doing that.
Yeah. So correct me where I'm wrong here, but for a long time you were leasing a piece of property and then you had an opportunity. It came up for sale and it was kind of one of those, you can't pass it up type of deals. And so you took a big risk and went to purchase your first farm, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I hunted that farm. I've hunted it for about 14 years before I had a chance to buy it. And it was a handshake deal. They let me actually hunt it without having to lease it. But I just had the right situation where they came to me and asked me that if I was in any position to buy it. And went home first thing and talked to my wife, Rachel, and made sure it was something that she was okay with me doing because it's a big financial risk. But it was something that I've always wanted. And we just jumped in and did it and wouldn't change it for anything.
So talk to us about how the property hunted prior to you taking it over.
Okay, yeah, I got to see it go through a couple different stages. When I first started hunting it, he had just taken cattle off the farm, so it was purely like old pasture ground, not really even CRP. Mm-hmm. And then he put it into row crop, which made the farm better, but there still wasn't much as far as any management. The family gun hunted it and let a few other people's kind of come in and hunt it as they went to. So there wasn't really no food plots. There was no cover, no management. So it was kind of a raw slate whenever I got hold of it. Mm.
And then your thought process when you went to purchase it, you're thinking this is a blank slate for me to work from. I can really do something with this.
Oh, absolutely. The farm lays out great as far as the way the timber lays with the ag crop and just the way it all intertwined. It's a perfect layout and perfect ratio. I've got about, in my opinion, 60% timber and 40% tillable. Mm. And that's a 300-acre tract.
So how long have you now owned it? 3 years? 2 years?
I'm going into my fourth season this year, so about 3.5 as of right now.
So the question I have for you so you started implementing kind of new, I guess you're painting it with your brush. Okay. So,
beautiful.
Exactly. So throughout those 3 years, have you seen a difference? Has it taken time for the herd to grow, for, maybe your buck to doe ratio to get better? Like how hard has it been to get, to where you are now? Because I know the first few seasons were tough, but this past season seemed to be pretty good.
Yeah, this is the first year I can say I can reap the rewards of the hard work that we put into it. The first year or so, we really didn't have enough food. We had a big ratio of deer. The buck to doe were way off. And we just finally hit this year the cap to where we had just enough food to carry them through. And so I think it's starting to finally come around and finally holding deer too, kind of like the question of the day that they'll get to. But I'm finally starting to see deer hold over from one year to the next.
So walk us through your decision-making process on how you decide what are the priorities and then what steps you took to meet those gaps that were on the property.
Well, the first thing to do, I always look at food, cover, water, which is like the recipe I think a lot of guys use for land management, but there was no food plots. And I think that was a big thing for not holding deer throughout the year or from year to year. So I wanted to implement grain, green, and some clover that was going to be a perennial. And so I went in and tried to carve out areas for all that the first year. And so it's a big undertaking. I had 9 acres dozed out the first year to go strictly into food. And I took some row crop out of ag production to put into food. So first thing I did was jump right in and add food to start trying to hold these deer and feed them. And I'm just now in the process of adding the second stage of that, and that's the cover. I've got some warm season grasses that I'm going to try to get in this year. I'm a little bit behind the gap with all the rain we've been having, so I'm still trying to get it in, but we'll see if it happens or not.
So,
TSI is the next thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So TSI is the next thing. With that much timber on the farm, that's one of the things I talked to Mark with, and that's where I can kind of capitalize. And I think he's got a DOD, or Wade did a DOD TV episode coming out on the TSI soon, which I think is going to be phenomenal for everybody to watch. It's interested in that.
Yeah. So one of the things that with TSI, like I know that a lot of guys will actually, take a chainsaw to select timber. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I always heard that like Dr. Grant Woods talks about is the hack and squirt method. That way you're not kind of trashing up the forest floor. Mm-hmm. Which one did you implore? The hack and squirt or the chainsaw?
So what I'm doing, I'm trying to do a percentage of each of those. I want an immediate area to hold deer kind of the first year. And if you start doing the hack and squirt or the ringing the trees to get into that cambium to make the deadfalls over years, you don't get as quick results. So I'm going to do a percentage of some hinge cutting, which is ugly, but it'll start to hold a few. And then I'm going to go in and actually have some timber possibly harvested that are pretty good sized trees, but very, very select on them. And then some are just going to be either hack and squirt or just ring the cambium, ring the tree and let them die with time. So I have kind of a different stage throughout the next few years of habitat for them.
Do you, when you come up with that strategy, do you consult with anyone on that? Or is it just, you're just gathering up as much info online that you could find? Are you going to, because I know a lot of the conservation departments have services. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they'll consult.
That consult, or in some instances, they'll even come to your property depending on what it is you're doing.
Sure.
Yeah, so I gathered up a lot of information to see exactly which way I wanted to go with that, because I'd read and saw Dr. Grant Woods didn't really like the hinge cut. And I know some other guys, Adam Keith from Land of Legacy, he likes ringing trees. So there was a variety. And so I just tried to figure out what would be best for my piece. And I've got some friends that are in the forestry business, and they're actually the ones I'm consulting with, and they're going to help me out on selecting the trees and pick out which ones I should fall, stand and die, or harvest.
Am I the only one that wants to make a joke when you hear the term hack and squirt?
Yeah.
What is that?
No, actually,
it's pretty universal.
It's universal.
I mentioned it, and I forget who did the DeerCast article about
Jeremy Kerber.
Yeah. So I mentioned the hack. You ought to do one about the hack and squirt method. And he's like, I don't think that's a good idea, or whatever he replied to. It's like instantly all of our minds.
The 12-year-old boy
junior
jokes.
high. It's like, oh, hack and squirt. Oh.
Anytime you think you're a little too sophisticated for your own good, then something like that comes up. Yeah. You realize I'm not a grown up, really.
Yeah. Well. That's us.
Yeah.
That's this podcast.
But hack and squirt is really kind of cutting into the cambium of a tree, squirting it with an herbicide, and eventually so it's a thing. And in TSI's timber stand improvement, sometimes we use these terms, and maybe someone's kind of learning up on what it takes to run a property.
I don't know if this is the right spot.
You may have come to the wrong place. That's why we have.
Yeah.
Are we fake news? Are we
sometimes
disinformation? Right.
What was that one weird one that when the CRP program started?
I said it started in the Great Depression. It was like 1984.
There was a recession in 84, so you weren't so far off.
Whatever. We corrected it on air, people. Come on.
So you're managing for whitetails. Are you seeing anything? Are you seeing any impact on the turkey population?
Oh, absolutely. And the coolest thing that I saw this spring was I had the first covey of quail that I've ever had on that farm. So
what do you think? It's just from having CRP or, warm season grasses, or what is it that the habitat changed?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. Whenever I did the dozing, I didn't burn the piles. I had pushed them into certain areas to create brush piles. And one or two of them were actually used just to kind of deflect deer and help me with entrance into the different stands.
Yeah.
But I've noticed cottontails are more than I've ever seen there.
Cool.
Like I said, first covey of quail. Problems I'm running into now is that's actually attracting more predators. I've seen an abundance of bobcats and coyotes, which that's, comes with the territory, but you got to manage that next.
Yeah. When we talked Mike Chamberlain, you know, in the previous podcast, we were talking about predation, and that's kind of the area we were trying to hone in on. And it was pretty amazing. Some of the, wait till you watch that podcast, it'll blow your mind. Some of the stuff that he and, well, you probably already read the QDMA article that he wrote regarding predation, and it was pretty mind blowing, I thought.
It's very mind blowing.
So basically, you can't kill enough coyotes because you kill one, one more comes.
Hopefully, yours are filled up on rabbits and quail, and they won't be eating your deer.
I hope not.
The facts say that is not the case.
Yeah, they're just going to keep eating.
Yeah, it was like 50% of their diet.
Reproducing too.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because when you make habitat improvements, typically it's not just one species that benefits; it's the entire ecosystem. Yeah. So turkey, quail, whatever else is supposed to be there. Do you guys have pheasants around you?
We don't. We're too far south.
Gotcha. So, and we should mention your piece is in Illinois,
Southern
correct?
Illinois, yeah.
Yeah, very southeast Illinois, about as far south as you can get.
Gotcha. Now, what about neighbors? Do you have neighbors that are kind of like-minded? Have you done any collaborative work with them? So
I've got one neighbor that's a fairly big landowner, and he borders all the west, south end, and part of the north side. And actually, I just found doing our shed hunt 2 weekends ago that he just started some pretty heavy TSI. So I've not met the guy. I've tried several times to come up to his camp and meet him. They've never been there. So it's just hit and miss. But as far as like-minded, he looks like he's very good on habitat, which is going to help me as well. But I don't know age class or anything like that they're shooting. I know they shot it off a lot this year with a gun.
Sure.
That's everybody's neighbor.
Yeah. Shooting range over there or something. Yeah. They don't stop.
Part of it.
So what about prospects for this coming year? You got some deer you're keeping your eye on?
Yeah, for sure. And we actually had a pretty good shed hunt. We found 2 match sets. One match set was he's going to be a good one next year. And my dad found him of all things, so I thought that was pretty cool. He's never found a good match set before, but he did this one.
So as you know, the name of your place, you named your place, Two Does Farms. Yeah. Then you had another, because you have 2 daughters. Then you guys had another daughter, surprise, 3 Does Farms.
Yeah, surprise.
I love that you're introducing the kids.
That's cool.
Over, into the hunting, because your wife, I love her to death, but she's a girly girl. And
she's very girly.
You're doing everything you can to get your daughters kind of into your lifestyle. And that's the best part, probably.
Yeah, I love it. Quincy, she's just as much a boy, I think, as she is a girl. She, this shed hunt, she's running around with Carhartt bibs on and briars sticking out of her cheek and just racing everybody to find the horn. So she doesn't care one bit to get muddy or dirty. So I think Camille, my middle one, she's going to be more kind of like Rachel. She's the makeup and a delicate flower.
Yeah.
It's nice to have the diversity in your kids.
And so, you're cultivating this property, and ultimately you're doing it for them to have these experiences on. And that's probably something that's worth mentioning, because, we look at it from a land management standpoint. Hey, how can I make the best property for deer and turkey and everything else? Mm-hmm. But what you're really doing, when you have a young family, is you're also creating a habitat for your family to
make memories,
experiences, and all that stuff.
100%.
So,
well, what say we jump into the question of the day?
All righty. Question of the day is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops in Cabela's. Your adventure starts here.
Hey guys, this is Dennis Colopy from Wolverine Lake, Michigan. Me and a buddy of mine have property out in Jackson County at Spring Arbor, Michigan. The one question I have is, it is a great spot, Jackson County, to get deer out of Michigan, and big buck too every year. However, where we're hunting, we only seem to get the 1.5-year-olds, 2.5-year-olds. Which is okay. I mean, we're not bored. We see deer all the time. Maybe not as much as a managed property, but we do get our amount of deer out there. So what advice could you give us, maybe perhaps, that we could do to maybe keep the bigger ones around our area?
An age-old question.
Yeah. If we knew that, we'd probably have a bigger office.
How do you keep the big ones on you? And especially like if you've got a neighbor that's got a pretty good habitat, I'm sure it overall benefits the herd, but They don't care about property lines.
The three things that you mentioned when we first started: food, bedding, water, habitat. If you have those things, you're more likely to have bigger bucks. But it's one of those things that if everybody in the neighborhood's doing the same things, I don't know. I kind of feel like food might win out. Food might win the day in that equation. But Bric, what do you think?
I would kind of give it kind of like coronavirus answer. The most limited resource is your most valuable resource, kind of like toilet paper.
Yeah.
But I would look on Onyx or an app, something like that, and look around and see what your neighbors do have and see what they don't have. And whatever they don't have, that's probably what I would focus on adding.
That's an interesting strategy, actually. And I've never thought about it or heard it put in that perspective, but
it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you give them what they can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, I always think in, my small world of just hunting at the lease, everywhere around there is big ag. It's all big ag, right? The kind of connected to me is a lot of timber. All right. I know they're bedded on the neighbor and all this timber. I know that. We've got a little bit of bedding habitat. The does seem to stay on me. The bucks seem to be in the timber. Well, come the rut, usually I'm in pretty good shape. I have a decent amount of food. What we plant and food plots, and then what we pay the farmer to leave and crops. Once everybody else is shelling their corn and, picking the beans and everything else, I tend to have some of the only food.
You're the go-to.
Yeah, in the area. So you have that, you get the does because, they tend to bed. We do have enough bedding there where the does seem comfortable enough.
Sure.
And then when the rut comes, it seems like it's a rut farm and then a late season farm. So the rut, because they're coming to check all those does, and then the late season, boom, that little bit of food, I'm talking like a couple acres, acre or two, $500-$600 worth, to ask the farmer to leave it. And then all of a sudden you got a food source when a late season food source when nobody else does.
Yeah.
Those strategies have helped me in a very like a narrow, single-minded way of thinking, like, how can I kill a deer? If I was in Bric's, spot, or if I owned this ground, I would probably have a different strategy. I'm limited in what I can do with it. I would leave a lot more food. I'd have way more bedding habitat than I do now, but I'm limited. I can't do those things. So, hey, how can I kill a deer, a mature buck? Here's my two strategies based on what I do have. So,
Bric, will you hunt your farm exclusively, or are you going out based on the timing and hunting different areas?
Yeah. And as far as the area here, I mainly will hunt my farm. I still have a few different pieces that my buddies have that I've got permission on. They're good pieces and we all kind of are like-minded, but 95% it's on my farm now.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is really like, it's a year-round strategy to keep them there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
How many does are you harvesting a year? You don't have to give away like how big your piece is or anything like that, but how many does?
Yeah, no, it's not enough. We harvested 5 does this year, I believe, off my piece, and they're towards the end. I need to really bump it up this year. So I'm going to try to talk to all the guys that I do have, which is problem is I don't let a lot of people hunt on me. So we're limited on how many we probably are going to be taking. So this year I'm going to have a few guys come in. We don't have in my county, don't have an antlerless only season like a lot of the counties in Southern Illinois do. So I've got to recruit some guys to come in to basically just doe hunt for me. And that's kind of hard to get them all to do that without having a chance of shooting a buck. But
yeah,
I've got some that are wanting some meat. So I told them by all means, come shoot as many as you have tags for. As long as they're legal, I'm good with it.
Yeah. That's a tough thing because on the lease every year we say this is the year we're going to shoot a lot of does every single year. But I also go into it, I think, and you're probably in this boat, limited time to hunt. And we probably have more time than your average guy, but limited nonetheless. And so we're hunting when DeerCast is great. It's basically the only days that I'm hunting outside of the rut.
Sure.
And so when I go, I don't have a great, there's not a lot of ways to, once I kill something, I don't really have a way to skin it there or, take care of it other than to field dress it and then take it to a processor.
Yeah.
I don't have the ability to do that stuff at home either. So it's like, I'm kind of stuck with, all right, do I want to shoot this doe?
It's a heck of a lot of work too. If you got an hour plus drive back home
yeah, it's a commitment. So in the early season, when you always think I'm going to do it in the early season, it's hot as hell. So you're like, all right, if I do it, I got to know where I'm going to take this thing right away. You got to have
a plan.
So for years, I've been very guilty of, we're going to do a better job this year and practice what you preach. I haven't done it either. I mean, it's just tough. It's tough to, if you don't have the right setup, you got to have the right mindset for sure. Like, all right, I'm committed here.
Right. And then I'm over here like Thanos.
Yeah. Killing every doe that walks by you.
6 this past year.
I just need you to come to my place. Maybe that's the...
Well, the problem, like my problem is I just didn't kill a buck this past. I would trade those 6 does for one single buck.
Yeah, but you have more meat in the freezer.
Oh, yeah.
Than I do.
Well, last night I went to check our deep freeze just to, I think I took something out. We're making venison chili or something, and it's full. It's one of these kind of stand-up ones. It's about like that, and it's not taken anymore.
You're ready for Corona.
I'm ready to do some bartering. Get like a deck built or something.
I was going to say, you go to somebody that killed a buck and be like, could I have your antlers? Here's some.
That could work. I'm not too proud. Well, Dennis, thank you for offering the question. We appreciate it. If folks want to leave a question for us, just go to DruryOutdoors.com. You can either go to extras and find the podcast tab, or you can just type in DruryOutdoors.com/podcast and get there. Leave us a voicemail. Leave your name, location, and brief question. We appreciate it.
How many acres you hunt? If you're willing to have Tim come help you.
If you have a troublesome large deer that needs to be taken out,
or just 50 does.
Right. Yeah. Too much venison.
I need Tim to come hunt with me.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Man.
I just love shooting my bow, and I love shooting does.
Yeah.
I love shooting deer in general, but
when I'm at Dad's, I have a much different mentality about shooting does.
Sure. It's game on.
He's got a walk-in cooler. It's totally literally different. Everything is set to kill deer at that place.
Yeah.
It's just you got to have the right mindset and be ready to put in the work.
Yeah. If I didn't have the setup I do behind my house, I wouldn't be as, and there are times when I pass on a doe because I'm like, I got something going on that night and I just don't have time to process it.
Yeah.
So even I exercise restraint from time to time.
Much to the chagrin of your life.
That's a good word.
Hey, it's St. Patrick's Day.
Hey, that's right.
Is that
shenanigans?
I think that's Irish chagrin.
I think so. Yeah.
Hey,
let's go with it.
Yeah.
Speaking of words, you guys ready for the wildlife word this week?
Oh, am I?
Bric's like,
bring it.
Maybe. Okay. This week's wildlife word is gizzard.
Yeah. So I know that back home, like liver dumplings and like gizzards and like
fried gizzard.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Do you guys like gizzards?
I don't know that I've ever had them. Liver dumplings, I never thought I would like, but as an adult, I've actually started eating them because they're such a big thing back where we come from. It's like a German community or whatever, and they're awesome. They're like really, really good, but they look like intestines.
They don't sound great, but
yeah. Have you ever had liver dumplings?
I don't know, Matt. I might have to be out on that, but gizzards aren't too bad. I mean,
if you like gizzards, you'd like liver. Come on.
Yeah. My grandpa Chelsvik used to pan fry gizzards all the time.
Oh, Grampy Chelsvik.
And man, I, as a kid, I would eat them, but I didn't know what they were. So if you don't know what a gizzard is, it's a thick-walled muscle in birds used for grinding food. The gizzard, which is full of grit, usually stones or pebbles, is the main way birds process food from their crop.
That's why you hear people say, you really got in my... No, that's craw.
Which may be the same thing.
That's what I'm thinking.
I believe it's the same thing.
Because you got in my gizzards.
Yeah, I'd be like, what did I do?
You really ticked me off.
I don't know what I did, but putting stones in my gizzards. So there's the wildlife word. It's delicious and a little bit timely because it's turkey season. Turkeys have gizzards. I think a lot of people are going to rush out to their grocery store because gizzards are probably the only thing in the meat section.
It's funny because I was telling Randall last because she sent me to the store Sunday on my way home from the shed hunt and because I was out and there was like no meat we were just getting like the weekly stuff that we need, not like months of supplies. And, I was going to pick up some hamburger and this and that and the other. And I was like, there's nothing here. The only thing that's left is very questionable. Like I
finally dip into that elk you got.
Yeah. Families of four are like studying it, reading the back of it. I'm like, steer clear. If it's the only thing left in the frozen section and everything else is gone, something's wrong with it.
It's also weird because growing up catfishing, we would usually fish for channels with chicken livers. And so when I see chicken livers in the little plastic bucket in the meat section, I'm like, that's bait. That's not food.
But that's what you grind up for liver dumplings, isn't it?
I don't know what kind of liver they use for. You're the dumpling expert.
Or is it pork liver? I don't remember.
Pork and chicken are pretty much the same thing, right?
I'm just trying to remember what the liver comes from. It's not human. I know that.
Maybe we can find out, and people can tune in next week and find.
I feel like it's chicken, but I don't know.
Monkey. Bat liver.
I don't.
It's from Wuhan.
Well, we got to be careful there.
I've cut way back on my bat consumption the last couple weeks.
Well, this thing's gone off the rails.
Yep, we should probably just end it and thank Dr. Bric Steward for joining us. He'll be back next week talking about how to keep your shoulders, because he is a doctor of chiropractic.
Yeah.
How to keep your shoulders in shooting shape.
Which Tim and I both have a lot of questions on because I'm feeling it.
Yeah. And it's a thing, as you age, you want to be able to keep your shoulder in good shape, but there's a lot of forces at play there.
I was talking to Rick Malik. He's another team member of ours and a fellow Bow Madness cast member of Bric's. And we were talking about our bow setups, and this was just this past week. And he said that he had just found out that I think he had a bicep tendon tear or something crazy like that. He's got to get repaired. And I was like, yeah, man. I was like, man, I'm having shoulder issues lately. And, he was saying that he had actually tore something with his shoulder muscle on dream season.
Yeah, he was on dream season.
Yeah, so
he was letting down on a deer or something, I believe in Illinois.
Yeah, and that's what happened to me this past fall. So anyways, we're giving away the next podcast.
Better tune in next week, folks.
Teaser.
Yeah, that was a deep tease, yes, as the people in the industry like to say.
What industry?
Well, I don't know, man.
Hack and squirt,
whatever. Well, that's a different industry.
All right.
You're getting off the rails.
Let's shut this thing down, shall we?
All right.
See you guys next week.
Until next time. Thanks for bringing us down, Bric. We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DOD TV was brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's.